Welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, I want to have a conversation. How much, if any, of the market downturn is directly affected by different grading card companies? And I don't mean this strictly from a graded slab perspective, just meaning a ton of graded cards have now hit the market, which has in turn had an adverse effect, and we've seen prices drop. That's not really what I'm talking about in today's video. What I'm trying to talk about in today's video is how could the grading card companies not being able to turn cards around fast enough, how can that be having an effect on the market? And, a little more specific than that, how are grading card companies affecting the prices for modern cards? I think the conversation really needs to start is why are grading card companies really important when you think about it? They're important for a few reasons. Yes, they protect your card for the long term. It gives that card, call it indefinite card condition, meaning whatever that card gets graded and gets slabbed up, that card will be that grade forever. Yeah, you can go into the nitty gritty and talk about cracking slabs and resubmitting, but for this video, we're going to kind of ignore that and just talk about if you have a PSA 10, you're probably going to keep it slabbed. You're going to have no reason to crack that card open and resubmit it. But the question becomes, well, why do people have their cards graded then, if it's not just to have them protected? The real reason a lot of people have their cards graded is because when you have a card graded, you get that card's true maxed realized value. And when I say max true realized value, what I'm saying is the condition of that card, the grade, directly corresponds to a price for that card for a certain grade. And whatever that card is worth, that graded version will be the high-end price for that card at whatever grade. So you could obviously see huge disparities when it comes to graded cards versus raw cards. Now, when you have a lot of product, especially when it comes to modern product, people might feel, less inclined to open a lot of product because by opening a lot of product, there's no way currently, as we stand right now in the market, for people to get their maxed realized gains. So what they're going to have to settle with is their max unrealized gains. And when I say unrealized gains, I don't mean it in like such a financial sense like stocks or something like that where your unrealized gains are just whatever you're sitting on. What I'm talking about is you're only going to get the max realized gains for whatever that card is raw. You're never going to be able to sell that card for the same price you can sell it for in a PSA 10. So in order to make money flipping cards, people are going to have no choice but to settle for a lot less money. Even if they know in their head that that card is a high grade, because they can just look at it, look at the corners, edges, surface, and centering and say, oh, I think this card's a high grade if you have any kind of experience grading cards in the past. But no matter what, you still will not be able to get the max amount of money for it if that card is not graded. So that really de-incentivizes a lot of people to want to open up a lot of product. And when that happens, you can really start to see a disparity start to happen, especially when it comes to sealed product and especially when it comes to modern product. And, it's a long-running thing too. Because when it comes to grading card companies, you now have to put up a lot of money up front for, unknown amounts of time. Meaning if I were to open up a pack of Chillin' Reigns right now and I pull out, one of the chase cards and I'm like, okay, I'm going to send this card to PSA. It's a modern card. Ideally, I'm going to want to send it at a bulk tier grading, grade this card for the cheapest price possible. And obviously PSA is closed right now, but let's just say they are open. I send it at that tier. Who knows when I'm going to get that card back? I have no guarantee. I have no timeline. So now whatever that initial investment that I had to put into that card to just buy the pack, buy that ETB, buy that booster box, whatever I had to spend in order to obtain that product, or if I decide to go and just buy that card raw on the secondary market, I'm now having to pay that initial upfront investment for a time period that a lot of people may or may not feel comfortable with. Sure, there's a lot of people out there who, can put that money up front for years at a time and not see a return on that investment. And when you talk about PSA and you talk about bulk turnaround times, no one really knows what the true turnaround time is for whatever the very last submission that PSA accepted. Right before they close, the very last submission that they said, okay guys, this is the very last bulk submission we're taking until July 1st. No one could give you a definitive answer on how long that submission will take to get back. Realistically, you could be looking at a 2-year timeline. And I know 2 years sounds like a long time, but it's a realistic timeline where that card can really be sent back to people. So let's say you went out and you bought a case of booster boxes and you got it for $90 a piece, or let's say $100 a piece. Make math real simple. So that's $600 for a case of booster boxes. You ripped all those cards, you took out all the hits, you sent them away in your bulk submission. Your initial investment you have to sit on is $600. That's, depending on how much of this you're doing, that financial obligation to you can start to add up really quick and not see any kind of return on your investment. So that's the topic of this video, is the grading card companies, because of turnaround times, because of their inability to put out cards to have quick turnaround times, are they inadvertently affecting the hobby and making the hobby go into this bearish time? And don't get me wrong, there's always ups and downs, but right now, recently in the hobby, we're definitely seeing a lot of indicators for downticks in the hobby. And yeah, you can go, there's definitely some outliers where there's some upticks, and the market all around it's okay for what we're seeing, but we're definitely seeing a more bearish time. And if you ask my personal opinion, I do believe we're going to come into a real strong bearish period of the hobby for at least a couple months. So I'm sorry if you don't want to hear that, but that's just my opinion. But that has to bring you to the question, do the grading card companies affect this more than we expected them to affect it? Because like I said earlier in the video, our initial thoughts when it came to grading card companies affecting the market was always that huge supply of graded cards coming back and tanking the market, because there wouldn't be enough buyers as there would be sellers. And inadvertently, we're having a lot of the buyers leave the hobby because those buyers were also sellers, meaning they got those cards, they opened packs, they sent them away for grade, and it was like just this huge circle of people buying from each other, selling to each other. And sure, there's different people within those categories, but at the end of the day, a lot of what the market was that. And sure, you can always have the conversation for a lot of people out there who say, well, I don't really care about grading my cards. I just do it because I want to have them slapped and I want to have them protected. And I understand that, because you know what? I've done the exact same thing multiple times in the past, because that's all I wanted. I just wanted my personal collection slabbed and graded. But with these turnaround times, you gotta ask a question, because the question begs to be asked. Is it still really part of your collection if you can't see that card for 2 years? Sure, technically it's always part of your collection. But, all the enjoyment that you might get out of that card, or going through your binder or whatever, looking at those cards, it's gone. And it's going to be gone, like I said, for indeterminate amount of time. That's tough for a lot of true collectors to swallow. And when I say true collectors, again, it's just the people that don't care about the value of their cards. They just care about the cards themselves, and they hate to see them gone for so long. And, it just really brings up a lot of questions when you talk about grading card companies and are they affecting the market? But what can be the benefits of it? What can be the downturn of it? My fear is that the negative of it is that it's just going to stack on top of each other, meaning people are opening packs right now because they can't send cards away for grading. By the time that they realistically can start opening packs and send cards away for grading, we're going to see this flood of bulk slabs hit the market, and the price is going to tank more. So it has the potential for the market to run away from us for a lot of different reasons that are all going to compound on top of each other. And, a lot of people always have the conversation. Well, what's really going to tank the market and what's really going to hurt the market is Pokemon is just going to start to print to actually meet demand, and they're going to flood the market with a ton of cards. But the scary part of that is if you do have a lot of people leaving the hobby and there's not as many buyers, Pokemon could potentially flood the market to meet the demand of buyers that no longer exist. And if they're printing to meet demand of a buyer pool that is come and gone, that could compound too. And you got to ask yourself the question, how much of this really is coming from grading companies not being able to submit? And like I said, it's that progression that's happening. It's people can't grade their cards. They leave the hobby. Pokemon prints to meet demand. Those people aren't there to buy. Then a year down the line, all the graded cards come back. It could be event after event after event. And, as the hype continues, because like I said, we're still seeing a lot of hype in different areas of the market, especially when it comes to pre-orders and super modern product. That is always where the demand is the strongest. My fear is what we're already starting to see with Chilling Reigns. Sorry guys, I know. I always pluralize Chilling Reign. And it's going to be a real hard habit for me to break. And I can't promise you that I'm ever going to do it. But maybe just for this channel, we'll call it Chillin' Reigns and not Chillin' Reign. I don't know. But what I'm already starting to see is supply start to be on the market. And when I say supply starting to be on the market for a set that hasn't been released, pre-orders are pretty readily available right now. And not only are pre-orders pretty readily available, we've already seen the prices for pre-orders drop pretty drastically. And I just have to ask a question. Are people just losing interest in the hobby? Or are a lot of those investors that entered the hobby looking at Chillin' Reigns and saying, okay, I'm going to buy these booster boxes. What do I do with the cards now that I can't send them away for graded? Because at the end of the day, there isn't a lot of money in sealed product when you just go the rip cards and then sell them as raw cards. The value really drops super quick. And that was like this interesting time where we really hit in the hobby, especially end of 2020, middle of 2020, maybe very early 2021, where you can still open a lot of packs and have a ton of value in those packs. But as I've said, that ton of value really was dependent upon graded. And yeah, I don't know how to phrase it any different. I'm just afraid that all these things are going to compound. It's going to be a bumpy road ahead. And, it's just something to really think about. So what it really boils down to right now is just really rough seas ahead. I don't know what's going to happen with raw prices for cards versus sealed product. And when I talk about this kind of stuff, I'm really talking about that ultra modern stuff. And ultra modern stuff is stuff like Chillin' Reign and Evolution Sky, or Evolving Sky, sorry, and the 25th anniversary, and maybe you could throw Battle Styles in there. Pretty much you could throw a lot of the Sword and Shield stuff, as long as people are still open it and with the intention of sending those cards away for grading. Now, sure, what did we do when we started to see the initial backlog at PSA? A lot of people flooded the different card grading companies, which made sense. But BGS has already pretty much thrown up the white flag. PSA has thrown out the white flag. We went to CGC, we piled in the CGC. Their advertised turnaround times, as we all already know, are bullshit and mean nothing. And who knows how long CGC's turnaround time, especially when it comes to bulk submissions, is going to be. We can be looking at a very similar turnaround time as we're seeing for PSA. Yeah, they're advertised as 225 business days, but let's also, not pretend like my last submission that was averaged at 30 business days for CGC. Let's not pretend like I didn't get them. Let's see. What's 20 times 5 is 100. I ended up getting them a little over 100 business days later. So, yeah. Just think about it, guys. If that really is the case where it is like a 3x multiple, which I doubt that's true. Do I really think that CGC's true turnaround time is 675 business days? No, it's probably not a 3-time multiplier, but it's definitely more than the 225 days or whatever they're advertising right now. So, what does that mean? It just means what I said earlier, that people are going to be putting these investments into a lot of this sealed modern stuff, open it up, and they're going to sit on that investment for a very, very long time if their sole intention is to buy stuff and grade stuff. So that could just, have these huge adverse effects on the hobby. And I'm pretty nervous about it, to be honest. I'm not nervous about it from a personal standpoint of that it affects anything I'm doing with my investment strategy or my collecting strategy for the hobby right now. What I'm nervous about is just the people that are going to leave, because that's the last thing anybody wants. Because really, the true sustainability, the true blood, the fresh blood that comes into this hobby is really what helps Pokemon get to the next levels. And when I say the next level, yeah, I kind of am really just talking about prices and hype and speculation and all the stuff that goes with that stuff. New collectors, while they do a lot of crazy stuff, things that I probably don't agree with, at the end of the day, they're so valuable to the hobby as a whole that to just have them be completely eliminated, again, potentially being a factor of grading card companies being closed, it's really a net negative for the hobby. So, I don't know, guys. This was a conversation I want to have. This is just a hypothetical. There's a million different reasons that we're seeing this bearish downturn in the hobby. And I just wanted to talk about one of the factors that could potentially be in play for this. But hey, listen, guys, if somehow you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Go down below, hit that subscribe button. Other than that, hit the like button. And I'll catch you guys on the next video.